On this episode, I'm going to show you how to blend out your paint and make it look flawless. This is Paint Society. And thank you once again for joining me. This is Brian from Paint Society, the channel where the learning doesn't stop when the video ends. Now we have this Subaru in the booth. Let me get you caught up on how it got to this point right now. When this Subaru came into our shop, our team determined it will need a new fender. That way we don't have to put a whole bunch of Bondo in it to get it right. So we did a test fit, and then once the test fit was all done, we took it off because at this point we want to cut in the fender. Well, now I prefer when I do my cut in to actually paint the whole entire fender, and we'll get into that in a little bit. But what I'm doing here is using a 320 grit to get it all nice and scuffed up and using a scuff pad around all the edges. We then went ahead with a blue color build sealer. That is a tinted sealer followed by the blue base coat, and we did about 3 coats here to get proper coverage, and then we followed that with our clear coat. Only 1 coat of clear coat was needed here for this particular cut-in. Now once it was all done, it was time to put it back on the car and determine, well, the color match didn't really match too well. So we'll get into how we corrected that problem in a little bit. Once everything was installed, we decided that we're going to do our blend on the hood and the door and the A-pillar, and we're using a K800 grit here to sand everything nice and smooth and get it ready for our base coat application. So we took this into the door as well as we'll be blending into the mid part of the door. I like to follow it up by cleaning things up with a scuff stuff cleaner and using the pressure washer just to make sure all the dirt and debris is released and we have a nice clean surface to work with. We then pulled the Subaru into the booth, its final resting place before it'll get its new paint job. Now a little bit of masking and clean tight masking will go a long way in the booth to make sure that you have a nice clean finished job. So make sure you take the extra time to make sure there's no air pockets or flapping plastic along the way, as that can attract different dirt and debris into your paint job while you're painting your particular vehicle. So in the front end we like to tighten it up, and on the back end I like to cut up the plastic and tie it just as we did here in the front, as you see right here. So now we have a nice enclosed plastic sheeting around the car, and we'll just cut around the lines and put masking paper and tape exactly where we need it. With a Subaru in the booth, this is the most common paint job that will come through an automotive auto body shop. Now we can see the fender is much darker. This is not the color we're going to put on the hood or the door. And one more reason why I like to paint everything on the car is because we have so many variables that can go into paint. Weather, temperature, humidity, all that coupled with spray pattern, all that will affect the color. So if you paint everything at once, we're good. Also, we reduce the risk of when this part is painted and putting it back on the car, well, is it going to get scratched? But this isn't wasted time because we have a cut-in, which is a painted portion inside the engine bay, and we have a cut-in inside this fender. When we open a door, there's color. Now this isn't the perfect color, but we went back and I found a color that matches much better. So this is the color we'll be using to blend. And why do we blend? Well, although we do have a color code, when we punch it into the computer, it will tell us how to mix the color, but there are so many variables that go into an actual matching of a paint job. That is why we're going to blend into the hood and blend into the first part of the door as well as the A-pillar. Now when we blend, we want to come no more than the middle of the door, okay? So the back half of the door is what matches the rear door. We want to keep that intact. So basically we're going to go around 8 to 10 inches per pass, all right? So this will be my first coat. I wait about 5 to 10 minutes, and then my second coat's gonna fall around this area, and then my third coat's gonna fall right around this area. We don't wanna go past that, okay? That's pushing it right there, because if we put full color all the way to the edge, then this is not going to match that door. Now over here on my A-pillar, first coat, okay, second coat, a little bit smaller, and third coat, all right? So, on our hood, we want to use our body lines, all right? I don't want to take my color past this body line right here. So my first coat is going to come off of this body line, okay? My second coat will come a little bit more right here, and then my third coat right around here. We also have to make sure that we cover this area because this is where the fender is attached to the hood, and we want to make sure that all matches. Before I base coat, I'll use my tack rag. I don't like to tack too much. Try to limit your contact with the panel. I also have my neutralizer. It's a static gun. Not needed, but greatly helps. This is a tip that's gonna help you. This is already mixed 2 to 1, okay? But there's a rumor going around that you can mix up to 80% more reducer. So I'm gonna give it a lot more. It doesn't need to be an exact science, but what I just did is I made my blend that much smoother and that much more transparent. Now, what's the downside? It's gonna take a little bit longer to dry, and it's gonna take a touch more to cover, but we've already painted our fender. We already have good coverage, so it shouldn't matter. I'm not gonna use any wet bed. I'm gonna put this right onto the vehicle. It should blend out real nice. Base coat gun I'm using is the Wacom 1.3 base coat edition. This is one of the top tier base coat guns, really effortlessly, and it's climbing to the top of one of my favorite for laying down base. Did you notice what I did? I painted it and then I walked away. I'm allowing the chemicals and the paint to do its job and to release and flash on its own. Take a look, number 1. Now, it's not gonna be full paint, it's gonna be a mist. It's not gonna be full coverage, all right? So, but you need to visually look at it. How does it look so far? We can see our new color match matches our door. We can see our new color match over here is starting to blend, still needs a couple more coats. And over here on the pillar still needs a couple more coats, but allow it to flash. On the second coat, we'll take it a little bit further. My first coat is flashed off 5 to 10 minutes. I can tell just by looking at it, it's ready to go. My second coat, I'll bring it a little bit further. It doesn't need to be an exact science. You don't need to bring it right to this mark. You need to look and see what the paint is doing. You make adjustments from there. After spraying down that second coat, you want to spray it somewhat medium wet. There's going to be a little bit of a shine to it, and then it's going to dull down. Well, while that's drying, you're going to say, you make it look so easy, Brian. I'm going to tell you something. There's an old saying that says, well, it's the painter, not the gun. I don't know if that's true anymore, because some of these guns, they do the work for you. It is amazing. Literally, all you gotta do is pull the trigger. If your prep is right, you sanded it down. This is sanded with an 800 grit. It's cleaned off, it's nice and smooth. If you have the correct undercoat, when you spray the gun, pull the trigger, that paint just goes on. All you're doing is leading the gun. Yeah, I'm not discrediting myself, but a lot of these modern day guns are really, really good. So we're gonna give this a little bit more time, maybe 5 more minutes, and then we'll lay that third coat on. We'll take a look at it and see if it's ready for clear coat. A lot of you guys will ask on a third coat, Brian, do I need a drop coat? Do I need to decrease my distance? Do I need to change my fan, my fluid? And some of my earlier videos, I did talk about that. Now, one thing I have noticed, and getting back to my point about using a much better gun like that Wacom or DV1, is you don't need to do that extra work. I'm not changing anything on this third coat. The only thing I'm going to do is increase my distance a little bit, step back, and just watch the paint go on. 3 coats, don't overdo your base. Do you see how smooth it is? We don't want to keep on adding base. If we keep on adding base, we're gonna get something called sand piling, a buildup of the base. It's gonna get rough, and we don't want that. Let's hit up our third coat. We allowed it to dry a good 25 minutes to 30 minutes, and it is good to go. Now, if we take a look at our tape, we can see that we went to 1, we went to 2, and at 3, it's starting to taper off. Same thing here on our A-pillar, it's starting to taper off. And if we come across to the hood, we can see 1, 2, and 3 starting to taper off. So at this point, our paint should be smooth. It shouldn't be gritty, it shouldn't be tough. Our tack rack should move nice and smooth over it. Now remember, this is just sanded clear coat. This area does not get base coat. Luckily, this is a new car. It has no rock chips, so we can put clear right over it. But coming over on our base coat, we can see how nice this glides, right? Good indication that we are gonna have nice and smooth clear coat. Now, what made that so nice and smooth? Well, that extra slow reducer we added into the paint, now that's what's gonna make this blend area right here completely smooth. There's no difference between sanded clear and the middle of our base and, well, the beginning of our base. You can't tell, and that's exactly what is going to lead us into a nice, beautiful OEM paint job. Now, this is not a clear coat video, it's just a base coat video. So let's start slamming down some clear and let's check this thing out when it's all done. Vehicle is all done, and I gotta say it looks really stunning. We took two very similar colors and we blended them on the hood, we blended them on the door, the A-pillar, and I even took it a step further on my own and I blended the bumper and the rocker panel just to make sure that the customer would be satisfied. Now guys, I hope you learned something from this video. If you want to support the channel, go ahead to paintsocietystore.com. Also, don't forget on Instagram, a good way to get all your questions answered. You can send me a DM, that's paint.society. In the meantime, guys, this is Brian from Paint Society reminding you, don't overthink it, it's just paint. I'll see you guys on the next one. Let's check it out.